Borderlands 3 is out in a few more days, and thus far the reviews for the game are pretty darn positive. And the main takeaway I can give from these reviews, well at least the positive ones, is that it's more Borderlands. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's more Borderlands, which is exactly what a lot of fans and a lot of players wanted from Borderlands 3, and that's what they're going to be getting. Now, there's some weird shenanigans going on with the overall reviews for Borderlands 3. Like, only a number of games media actually received early copies, and it seems only for the PC version and only on the Epic Games Store. Jason Schreier wrote in an article, he highlighted Polygon, noting that 2K Games and Gearbox didn't send out review codes for Borderlands 3. Instead, they set reviewers up with new Epic Games Store accounts with the game unlocked and gave us a few warnings about the game being a work in progress. They asked us to stay away from the DirectX 12 implementation, for example, and told us that our progress in the builds may or may not carry over to the final game. So yes, an early version they're giving to games media, and again, the only versions that are actually being rated by reviewers right now is the PC version. As a result, Polygon reviewer Ben Kuchera wrote he and some of his colleagues ran into some severe technical issues, including random crashes, and in one case someone losing 6 hours of progress and having to start from scratch. Some other reviewers complained of technical problems, others did not. Kotaku requested access to Borderlands 3 for a review but did not get access. A representative for 2K Games cited security concerns and told us we'd get a code for the much anticipated looter shooter on Thursday, September 12th, the day before it launches. So my sneaking suspicion is that 2K Games only wants to give it out to maybe 15 to 20 outlets, maybe so spoilers don't get out. That's the only assumption that I can make, but it does raise a lot of red flags and questions, like how did they select these few outlets and why did they choose them? Like, I know a number of YouTubers that were, well, they pretty much were told the same thing, they're not going to be getting an early copy, which I find odd because I know a lot of YouTubers were invited to fan events from Gearbox Software to play Borderlands 3 early and get an early look at the actual gameplay experience. So my belief is that this isn't something that Gearbox Software has decided, but 2K Games, the publisher, that is handling all of the business aspect of this game. So maybe it's a strategic marketing decision, I guess. But before we proceed forward, if you do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing for more gaming news like this, and turn notifications on so you do not miss out on any new content. Now, if you check the actual reviews that have been written thus far, the most positive one that I can see comes from XGN saying, Borderlands 3 has surpassed the bar that its predecessor had set. The story is grand in scale, the humor is on point and updated to 2019, weapons are diverse, and the new Vault Hunters are unique in every way. Every Borderlands fan must pick this game up, and they gave it a 95 out of 100. Now, another review coming from Forbes, Paul Tassi, he's a big looter shooter guy. That's why I raise questions about who they chose, because I know some of these people just love looter shooters, so maybe that was part of the thought process. It doesn't really make sense. Borderlands 3 was worth the wait, and it will be a fixture in this genre for years to come, and I think few fans of the last two will be disappointed when they get their hands on it at last. And Paul gave it a 90 out of 100. The negative reviews I want to highlight because there's some really odd criticism that has been written by PC Gamer, VentureBeat, and Polygon. One important thing I need to note is that it seems like in this entertainment industry, there's some really strange criticisms in reviews nowadays, like Dave Chappelle's recent comedy special. I'm sure most of you have heard about this by now. It's offensive. That's what comedy is, and if you look back at old comedy routines from the 90s and 2000s, you're like, wow, if somebody did that today, ooh, they'd be canceled on Twitter immediately. But Dave Chappelle just does what he wants, and that's what I love about his comedy, and he's one of my favorite comedians for that reason. And his recent special I thought was amazing, but if you go to like Rotten Tomatoes, the super progressive far left reviewers really hated it, and I just think that I see a lot of that and also in games media reviews. Like Far Cry 5 is a great example of that. It was set in Montana, and a lot of people were upset that it wasn't political enough and didn't give a big FU to Trump America. I guess that's what everybody expected, and a lot of reviewers like Polygon, VentureBeat, Forbes, I think even IGN, a lot of them were upset that it wasn't political enough. And I personally, I didn't care for the story, the main narrative, because it wasn't very interesting, but I don't think it would have been much better. Now with Borderlands 3, it seems like a lot of games media is specifically taking issue with the joke. jokes. I guess it's out of touch and offensive. That's what many of these outlets are writing. Borderlands 3 has already been surrounded by tons of controversy thus far. As most of you know, the Epic Games Store timed exclusivity deal, something controversial, and in the last few weeks, the Epic Games Store not delivering on a lot of promised features, well, that's also upset a lot of PC gamers, and for good reason. And now seeing a lot of these reviewers coming out saying that the game is having problems on PC just makes me kind of worried for release day, but we'll see. And for right now, Borderlands 3 is just a few days away, and the only reviews we have are these. But I did want to go to this PC Gamer review and talk about a few parts of it that are just really strange, and it's a really strange reason to review bomb a game. So this is what, I'm going to avoid the spoilers in this article. I don't know if it goes too deep into this, but it says, Borderlands 3 review, bad jokes clash with great guns and a looter shooter lost in time. Borderlands 3 is the family circus by way of Spencer's Gifts, a game with long, earnest quests about how darn good coffee is punctuated by gore and gun violence. Borderlands 3 walks by dog poop and points it out and laughs and then sets it on fire. Borderlands 3 stays up until 11:30 p.m. drinking soda and googling crass flash animations, taking detailed notes. It's stuck in the late 2000s when surface level vulgarity was enough to qualify as edgy. Borderlands 3 is seriously obsessed with turds, and when the series was first conceived, it's stuck in a time when memes lasted months rather than days, when referential humor was still a novelty and not exhausting, when you could point at something the slightest bit abnormal, gross, and call it a joke. Simpler times, not necessarily better times. And that's their main issue with Borderlands 3, and they give it a 63 out of 100. I don't understand this. It has bad jokes, I mean, cheesy humor, that's PC Gamer. That's Borderlands. I mean, is this really that surprising? Now, moving along later into this review, they bring up Tales from the Borderlands, a game not made by Gearbox Software, made by a complete different developer that actually doesn't really exist anymore, Telltale Games. Let's remember, Tales from the Borderlands is a game that, it's a different genre, and obviously it was going to have a big focus on the story, and Borderlands is really all about the gameplay. Sure, I know the lore and the story is important, but I mean, when a lot of people are playing that, or even talking about Borderlands, they're talking about the looter-shooter aspect, not necessarily the story first, but maybe that's just my opinion. Tales from the Borderlands proved that the Borderlands universe could balance goofy slapstick comedy with great character work, gracefully swaying between fourth wall breaking gags about video game cliches and heartfelt drama. It irreversibly changed what I expect from this series, and maybe that's your problem, PC Gamer, really. Now, as I said before, I'm not going to go through this whole review, but I am going to go down to a few more parts, and PC Gamer writes, there's a quest giver who does their best Tommy Wiseau impression and talks about making movies, which is the whole 20-minute long punchline. The joke is simply knowing who he is. Another makes fun of exploitative macro transactions. Let's get that right, PC Gamer. And buggy early access games with a boring quest that force me to either spend in-game cash for an easy skip or perform tedious tasks. It goes on for so long that I gladly would have paid real money to skip it. Maybe that's the problem, PC Gamer, people doing that, and let's not encourage it. Like many Borderlands bits, it's a joke that could have been a 2-minute gag extended to 10 times that, and personally, I don't see a problem with any of that. That actually sounds pretty cool. Cheesy humor, that's exactly what I expect from Borderlands. Now, to the end of this review, PC Gamer writes, between the bugs, the extended non-jokes, the self-aggrandizing jabs at game design trends, and a few cameos I will not spoil, but that made me audibly groan. Borderlands 3 has a lot in common with Gearbox fan events as of late. There's a lot of loud, extended posturing while holding what everyone really came for hostage. It's a shame because Tales from the Borderlands found a delicate balance of absurdity, self-awareness, and genuine heart. A better Borderlands is possible, it's just not Borderlands 3. And honestly, I don't know who this reviewer is, I'm not even going to look back up, but what I will say is maybe Borderlands just isn't your game, maybe you probably shouldn't have reviewed it, and maybe it's just not made for you, because that's what it sounds like here. Dumb humor, cheesy humor, bad jokes, that's Borderlands. I mean, there's a reason why Claptrap is such a big role in this franchise. Now, PC Gamer was not the only outlet sharing this same opinion. Polygon doesn't give a scored review, but it sounds like they probably would have given it right around the same score that PC Gamer did. They wrote, Borderlands 3 review, third time's a chore. When punk rock is played by dentists. Players who just want more Borderlands will likely be happy with Borderlands 3, and that's where this review probably should have just ended. The game certainly delivers more Borderlands, though not much else. Borderlands 3 is often a shadow of Borderlands 2, and more of the same is a disappointment for a franchise that used to feel so refreshing and rebellious rebellious. Now, I'm just gonna say something, but where's this same energy with all the sports franchises like NBA 2K20, which is a buggy disaster right now, and I think they even found that NBA 2K19's task button or taskbar icon is the same as 2K19 because lazy developer. Even Madden, I think, got caught with Madden 19 logo and Madden 20. It's like these sports franchises, they don't get the same criticism that main franchises like Borderlands get, or even Call of Duty. It's just really weird. It's just something that I wanted to point out. Have that same energy all across the board, please. Through the rest of this review, I'm not going to really go over this one because it just takes issue with every aspect of the experience. Like, Polygon does not like the new villains, the Calypso twins, and they also go on about the mission design. They say it lacks creativity, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this video when Jason Schreier brought it up, there's a lot of technical issues with the version that they received, although it doesn't seem like everybody's experiencing the same issues. But I will read the end of their review, which they say the franchise used to feel adventurous. Now, without any fresh ideas or concepts, it's a little more than a holdover from a different time. Borderlands 3 feels safe, oddly careful, especially for a game about anarchy, and worst of all, corporate. In all honesty though, I kind of expected this review out of Polygon, just because I believe it was the same writer who wrote this review back when the game was announced in March. They took a very massive issue with the debut trailer. I think I actually made my own video about their article. But Polygon wrote, Borderlands 3's debut trailer may have made you happy if you just wanted new Borderlands content, and if that's the case, I'm happy that you're happy. I'm not happy. And they would go on about all of the issues that they take with it. They say there might be a jump in visual quality and an introduction of new faces while existing characters go through some sort of change, and ideally the mechanics themselves should evolve in some way. More is not a good excuse for a sequel. The best sequels are defined by a more complex word, better. Well, I don't see that with sports franchises, and even some of these, Call of Duty, that's a good example, although it's advancing this year with Modern Warfare, but for the longest time it didn't, and still received 9 out of 10s every year. But yeah, the main point I want to make from this Polygon article about the trailer is just that they've been critical since the beginning, and it just sounded like they didn't want to be excited or happy about this game, and in the review, they clearly are not. To the final review that I'm going to specifically bring up, this comes from VentureBeat, and they gave the game a 77 out of 100, not too bad, but the criticisms they have is just, again, I find it so strange. Borderlands 3 review, fun action, but some yucks are too yucky. And for the good, they actually highlight, they say the gunplay feels good, there's fun payoffs, they say the solo play is really good, character progression's fun as usual, a lot of stuff that you would expect out of Borderlands game to be good, but they take issue with the game feeling too familiar. Borderlands 3 has a comfortable rhythm, you appear, you start fighting psychos, skags, and other fanatics, you acquire a death-dealing car, you find better guns and grenades, but at times I got a feeling like I'd done this all before. But the main criticism of this article, or this review I should say, is this quote right here at the beginning of the article. But Gearbox's approach to humor comes off like an 80s teen adult comedy. It hasn't aged well, and at times I find it offensive. Oh yes, jokes that are offensive. Oh boy. I'm gonna read their full criticism here about the humor. I'm an old tired man. I admit the schlong jokes and other adult tomfoolery in Borderlands 3 may not be for me, okay. I got tired of it quick. One side quest is about a battle royale in which you get a set of tokens in order to win a night with a leech known as Kilovolt, who croons about the adult bliss he's promising at the end of the quest, but your goal is to gain a special set of batteries that neuter Kilovolt so you can kill him. And as you do it, Moxie, one of the supporting characters who reminds me of an innuendo spewing refugee from Designing Woman, don't know what that is, throws out taunts about his lack of adult prowess. It's just hired, especially coming off the allegation. Where are people getting this stuff? I'm not even gonna read that. You can read it for yourself. You see it on the screen, and also YouTube, thank you. That's how you get your video demonetized, by mentioning stuff like that. That's why I avoid certain words and people ask in the comment section below. But seriously, I swear every article, Donald Trump, people, I know that this is going to be such a surprise, but Donald Trump he's not involved in this. You don't have to bring him up in every single article and everything that you do. Personally, I think that just some of these journalists are just looking for the opportunity to throw his name in anything that they write. But anyway, that's just my perspective on that. One line insulted me. I think it was a throwaway comment from a psycho as you slaughter it, but when I killed it, I said, I want to live in a more civilized age. No more wire hangers. I took this as a reference to the unsafe that woman had to seek out before the Roe versus Wade decision, and others may be using as states. Okay, so this person's making an assumption based off a comment. Okay. And looking a little further, it looks like there's a correction made. After publication, Borderlands 3 co-writer Sam Winkler clarified what the reference is from. I'm adding it here for fairness. Maybe you should just removed your comment. Anyway, again, to the conclusion of this article, I'm just going to skip over the rest of this because I don't have the time to get to it. I just wish the studio had advanced its humor and encounter design as much as class progression and weapon variety. If you enjoy looting and shooting, check out Borderlands 3, but go in knowing that you're going to cringe at some of the jokes and feel fatigue every now and then. Claptrap's butt can only plug so many holes after all. Now, like I said, I'm not the craziest Borderlands fan. I've been critical of this franchise the last few months just because there's been a lot of nonsense going on, specifically with the publisher, especially with how they got a YouTuber, well, he got his channel terminated by using a lot of false copyright strikes, but I don't know. I mean, if you're looking for Borderlands 3, it just seems like more Borderlands fun, and I don't really see the issue with that, especially with some of the criticisms are just about the humor, and it seems like some of the reviews they're happy about that, so I guess that's open for interpretation. Personally, the jokes that they wrote about, I'd have to see how it is in the actual game, but I don't really see anything cringy about that. Obviously, I guess you could find it cringy, but yeah, that's just my perspective on all of this. Borderlands has been facing a lot of criticism for months, some rightful criticism, especially with some of the nonsense that has happened surrounding Randy Pitchford, the 2K Games Submotto situation, and the Epic Games Store deal. And right now, the reviews for this game, some of the criticisms just, I don't know, I find them really weird. And also, again, 2K Games going about this, only giving it out to 15 to 20 outlets. Maybe they're trying to hide spoilers, or maybe they don't want spoilers getting out, but really strange how they're going all about this. Anyway, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Borderlands 3 is out in a few days. Is this a day one purchase for you? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so make sure to follow me over there. Also, check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games. And again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.